Welcome back into the mental game, where this week's guest is NFL star JT Gray.
It was a lot going on and off the field, and it was like a lot of chaos. You know, you in a battle with life every day, and you got to win that battle.
And in this episode, JT opens up about growing up in a small town in Mississippi, where as a child he had those big NFL dreams, but then he went undrafted, didn't hear his name called in the NFL draft, and had to prove his way getting signed as a free agent with the Saints. He had the ups and downs in those first couple years in the NFL, getting hurt, and also for the first time struggling with his mental health, and that's when he started going to therapy. We talk about all of that and much, much more in this episode. But first, I want to tell you about Man Therapy. And guys, I am talking to you because, look, we have to be vulnerable and be comfortable talking about our mental health, and that's why I want you to go to mantherapy.org, where they have amazing tools and resources to take the best care of your mental health. But now it is time for the latest episode here on The Mental Game with JT Gray. Welcome back into the mental game. As you can see, I got a very special guest sitting next to me, Saints defensive back, JT Gray. JT, thanks so much for coming on the mental game, man.
I appreciate you.
You are proudly from Clarksdale, Mississippi. I wanted to make sure I got that right.
Oh, yeah.
Before we were going back and forth, I said like Clarksdale, Clarksville, Clarksburg, but Clarksdale, Mississippi. I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. You have a really powerful story coming from a real small town, making it in the NFL. You were undrafted, had to work your way from being hurt, practice squad. Now you're an all-pro DB with the Saints. I want to go through your whole journey on the field, off the field, but the first thing I ask everyone here on the mental game is, what does mental health mean to them? And it's a unique question because we all go through our own journeys. We all have different things that come up in life, and maybe something happens that makes us take better care of it, or maybe it's something we've always been conscious of, but I'll ask you the same thing. What does mental health mean to you?
Mental health is essentially everything, because before you even wake up, your brain tells you to get up and go brush your teeth, or take that first step, and you got to have that fitness. So, you can have control over yourself, and being able to have that balance, that's more important. And I want to be able, with my fund recovery, I want to be able to provide that to anybody who need it, because everybody should have a helping hand whenever they need it.
Yeah, you mentioned fund recovery. Your individual one is mental mindset. We'll get into that here in a little bit, but you're going to help provide therapy and resources to kids in Louisiana, of course, because you play for the Saints, Mississippi, and across kind of the Gulf Coast region. But for you, when did you ever first start thinking about mental health? I mean, like, I grew up in an era where, I don't know, I'm 31. I think I'm a little bit older than you, but we're kind of in the same group where we're taught to just rub dirt on it if we're playing sports. Don't, especially as men, show that you're weak or emotional or struggling. When did you even know what mental health was?
I found out when rookie year, 2018. Being an undrafted guy, I didn't really just know that I was being affected subconsciously through my mental until I ended up, during the middle of the season, ended up getting cut, and just started to experience things that wasn't normal for myself, and I ended up getting a little bit of therapy, and that ended up helping me get across that hump. And my mental was playing a huge role in how I presented myself to my peers and how I showed up to my family and my friends, and I wanted to be the best person that I could be for them, you know what I mean? And that's was the first time I realized that mental health was really important, and I just want to permeate that to the next person, to advocate and express the awareness out on my platform. And I appreciate you for sharing your platform with me to be able to get this message across.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. I mean, that's the whole point. When people tell their stories and they can relate to you at 21, 22, 23 years old going to therapy for the first time. I mean, I never thought about it until I think I was 25, and I didn't go until I was 28. So like, it's that stigma around it, I think, is something that we're trying to break with both of our platforms. That's why we're talking about mental health, especially in sports. For you, I use sports as, look, I'm a Cincinnati fan, so we haven't really won anything since my childhood, so it hurts my mental health sometime. But like
Yeah.
playing sports and just being around those atmospheres can help you with your mental health. As a kid growing up in a small town in Mississippi, was that your kind of just happy place, was being on the field, having this dream of playing in the NFL?
Yeah, when I was young, I had teachers ask me what I wanted to be when I was young. I said I wanted to be a football player, because where I'm from in Clarksdale, they ask, that's really most what people want to be: an athlete, policeman, fireman. Those are the most successors that leave Clarksdale.
So for you, did that seem in your head like that was attainable? Like you could go grab it? And how did that, what was the motivation to get there? Was it to be, that guy from Clarksdale that made it out and kids can look up to one day? Or just what kind of fueled you on that journey, you think?
To answer your first question, it sounded easy, but growing up and going through it,
Yeah.
it wasn't an easy journey. I had a lot of hiccups, had a lot of ups and downs. I had a lot of dark days, but I ended up prevailing, being consistently persistent with my process and going out there and being productive more than I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the next question you said?
Just asking, did you want to like maybe be the kid or the guy that kids looked up to? Do you think that fueled the motivation of like making it out of Clarksdale?
That was some motivation. My family, just, what I'm saying, getting out of the environment that I was in and putting me and my family in better positions and situations, and just being great at it, and I felt like I've done a very good job at that, and I still have a long way to go, and this is where I'm at right now, and I'm planning to continue the progress.
You mentioned family there a couple times. It's a small town. Everybody knows everybody. Your childhood, you mentioned dark days too. What were some of those things that maybe off the field outside of sports? And this is a show where you can open up as much as you want to. Like, I respect boundaries, of course. But what were some of those things off the field growing up that maybe were those dark days or kind of hurt that journey a little bit?
I felt like I was a guy that didn't have as much as, my peers, and, going in wearing, same clothes the next day, and, get joked about it. That was something that probably was affecting my mental to this, to this day, that I, have insecurities on, now. But,
Yeah.
I feel like that helped me, and that helped me like not want to be that guy today. And I feel like that brought me some fuel too.
For you, like at home, did you have brothers, sisters, mom, dad working hard to be able to provide? Like, just take me kind of behind the scenes on family life, and because you mentioned something that's very tough that I think is relatable, wearing those same clothes to school, and kids, I'm just going to guess, some kids might have said something to you about it, or maybe not having the newest sneakers that other kids got.
Yeah.
How did that affect you, and what kind of was that family life like?
I got two brothers and I got one sister. We was pretty tight.
Yeah.
As far as like the jokes, I got joked about. Kind of hurt me a little bit, kind of put me in a shell that, they called me Big Shoes because, I wore my shoes so long that they started to inflate a little bit, I mean, I run fast, so I feel like that's why my shoes were.
Well, didn't they used to have the pump shoes? What
yeah,
were
they
those?
had I didn't have the pump shoes, but
you were the original pump shoes, though. Like you made them your own.
Yeah, they pumped up on them. You know what I mean?
Sorry.
But yeah, I feel like that, that what happened. That what it was. Like, that's all we knew, you know what I'm saying? But, you know what I'm saying, it's nothing, no bad blood or no harm, you know what I'm saying? I don't feel bad, or I don't look at nobody as being an evil person, because we was all young. We didn't really just know right from wrong. You know what I mean?
Well, and we didn't obviously talk about mental health then, but for you, going through that and then seeing football as the way to make it and to get your family maybe out of that situation, be able to provide for them and take that next step up, not just for you, but for everyone. When did you realize that it was possible? Was there a moment in high school when you started getting recruited? We know you played college football at Ohio State, at Mississippi State. What moment did you know that it was like you were good at this?
I would say when I went to a camp in Oxford, Mississippi for Ole Miss. I was a sophomore that year, and I ended up running a 4.3 40.
Oh.
So to run a 4.3 40 is pretty fast.
Yeah.
And they was like, wow. Like, everybody was like, he got a shot. And I was like, really didn't know for real until I just after that year, because I was a freshman, and it was I really wasn't like a star on the team
Yeah.
or anything. I was like a role player guy. Then at my sophomore year, ended up running 4.3, and then after that it was a bizarre summer. I ended up moving to Arizona that year after that, and ended up balling out there. Ended up getting I say about 12 offers out there, plus the offers that I had from Mississippi.
Yeah.
And I was like a big known guy out in Arizona, and people started to notice. And then I came back to Clarksdale, and I finished out my career there, my high school career there, and then I went to Mississippi State. So it all started to the realization started to come about when I ran that 4.3 in my sophomore year.
Yeah, 4.3 is pretty fast. I think, was it John Ross had the record at the combine at like 4.3 something. I think maybe 7-8 years ago now, but yeah, that's you're faster than I think 99% of people on the earth.
I'm pretty fast. I got some wheels.
We won't race after this. The yard at the studio isn't big enough for that anyway. For you get to Mississippi State, I have to imagine there had to be just this sense of pride being able to play so close to home and represent maybe people in the stands that look like you, grew up like you, that love that team. What was that career at Mississippi State like? Did you feel that sense of pride throughout those years?
Most definitely. I felt the pride. Just going in and playing for my state and going in and being a Bulldog, it meant so much to me. It means so much to me to this day. I recently just left there, went out there and, got a couple of drills in with the guys, and it felt so great to be back with those guys and being able to see the foundation that we continue to build on. And those guys they are upholding the standard and putting in their work to continue the success.
Mississippi State, SEC football, it's a whole different level. I've experienced from reporting on the SEC and LSU in my sports reporting days. But for you, when you have those dreams and you're starting to see it become reality and you get to Mississippi State and you're finding success, you start to dream of the NFL, of course, again, like you did as a kid. And that NFL draft is the pinnacle for kids that want to make it in football. What was your expectation going into the draft? Because not hearing your name called when you have that dream, we talk about mental health or those mental hurdles, the mental game, like that has to be one of the hardest days or weekends of your life because you have this dream and then you don't hear your name called. What was that experience like for you?
I would say this. The whole draft process, I was just locked into myself. Throughout the whole year, I didn't have an agent. I didn't reach out to no agent. I didn't stress myself on an agent. I just had one goal in mind, make it to the NFL. And I trained my butt off, studied. I made sure I did everything that I could possibly do on my own to make it to that next level. I didn't even watch the NFL draft. My family, they was watching the draft. Everybody was happy. They were like, man, your name might get called. I just stayed away from it, and what I'm saying, that helped me with my peace of mind. But I know the work that I put in, I know that I'm going to eventually get a shot.
For you to have that awareness of like, who cares what else is going on, it shows a lot about your mental strength. And look, I've been to so many draft parties and seen reactions and people waiting for hours and days. It can build up. So when you realize that you do go undrafted, you get signed by the Saints, brought in for training camp. What was that call like, that moment like? Did you have an agent at that time? Or
I had an agent. I didn't get an agent until after my pro day. So
okay, gotcha.
I went out there and I did what I did. And Rodney Edwards, he ended up calling me, and he was pretty shocked that I didn't have an agent. And but it is what it is. So we ended up connecting, and I'm here now. So you said back in 2018 I got drafted.
Yeah,
I got signed, undrafted. Yeah. How was it like?
Yeah, what was it like to get that call and to realize that was actually going to be a reality?
I was like, I got a chance, another opportunity, and I ran with it.
Was there a chip on your shoulder not getting drafted, even though you didn't watch the draft? Like, because you go into camp, there's a first round pick, there's 8 other guys that get picked, there's veterans. Like, it can be intimidating. Did you have a chip on your shoulder going into camp?
It's always a chip, but I was still happy that the other guys had their opportunity. I don't never feel like I should have had this spot over another person. I'm wherever I am, wherever my feet is, that's where I'm at. I'm grateful and I'm thankful for being where I was. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I just took the opportunity and I ran with it, and I continue to create more success.
for you got there and you were having some success in camp. You get hurt. I think you said before we started rolling, you had turf toe, and so tried to play through it in a preseason game, didn't work out. Get to the bye week, you end up getting waived, and go back to the practice squad. But did that was that the first shock of like your professional career or maybe your adult life of like something's up? You started to feel some type of anxiety, depression, because you mentioned you first went to therapy around that time. What did you feel in that moment? Did you start struggling when you got cut a little bit mentally?
That's the first time that I was aware, I would say, of mental health. And that was a tough challenge. Like that right there, it, you know what I'm saying, it did a little damage to me, you know what I mean? And I feel like I took it like a champ, took it like a professional, and I went to go seek help. I went to go to a therapist to figure out and come up with a game plan to help me, like I said, to help me be a better person to my peers and my friends and family around me. And and what else you say?
Just how, did you feel struggle? What are some of the things you struggled with before you asked for help? Were there things that you weren't doing? When you're not being yourself, that's one of the biggest warning signs. So when you get that call, did you find new habits or unhealthy coping mechanisms you were doing?
Yeah, I think that's when I fell in love with bowling. Honestly, that's one of my safe houses. I find peace there, and it was a lot. It was a lot going on and off the field, and it was a lot of chaos. And I had to try to find a way to mentally organize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that was bowling, and going to the therapist and figuring out a plan that can help me shape my life for the better.
You mentioned bowling. It's so funny for me. You don't know this, but I was an alcoholic. I've been sober for almost a year and a half now. And so for me,
that's what's up, bro.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. But bowling, instead of going to the bars and hanging out with people, I would just put headphones in and go bowling. Cause it was you throw it in the gutter, have a bad round, it's tough, but it was just peaceful to be there, headphones, listening to music. So same coping mechanism that you had there. Where did you reach out first for help? How did you know where to go? Did you rely on your agent, family, Saints personnel? How did you find that therapist that you first reached out for? Because that's a big step to take, and people sometimes don't even know where to start.
So we have a team therapist. She does a great job with the team and the organization. They've recommended her, so I went into her for a couple sessions, and we ended up talking, and that's where I went.
Gotcha. And for you, you mentioned that was the first time you were aware of it.
Yeah, that's the first time I was aware.
And you don't have to share everything, obviously. I can point out stuff for me because my whole life story is on the internet because of this show.
Yeah.
But what were some of the things that you were struggling with in that moment? Were you able to pinpoint some anxiety building up from getting cut, or any type of depression or sadness, or kind of what put you in that hole, you think?
I feel like on top of that, managing relationships outside of football, being able to create that balance. Everything was just in chaos. Everything was all together, and I just needed to find a way to balance that. I got people back at home. I got people out here that I need to help. I got my playbook. I got a game plan that's you know what I'm saying, I got to study this week, and then next week it's gonna be something totally different. And and there's a time limit on when this stuff have to be done, and just having good time management. That was one thing. Another thing, people probably don't talk about it, financials, having financial problems. Being able to manage your financials the correct way. All of those things you have to be able to have under control, because if not, it's going to control you.
There was a realization, I'm not your therapist, obviously, but I'm just guessing there was a realization for you when you took that step back and started talking to a therapist of maybe I'm not taking care of all these areas of my life. I'm just focusing on football, which is really good to be career driven, but there's other stuff that we got to line up. And so what was your favorite part about going to therapy? Was it just being able to talk to somebody about it, to get feedback? What were your biggest takeaways? What did you like the most?
My takeaway is I'm going to start taking over life. I'm going to fight back, because, you're in a battle with life every day. You got to win that battle. You might not win them all, but you got to win more battles than you lose. You know what I mean? And that's what me going to the therapist was doing. I was in the ring. It's round 12, and I'm
dodging.
I'm dodging it. I'm putting them on it.
Yeah. Well, it takes a lot of strength to go do that and to address those. And I've had so many men on here, but specifically black men, whether it be actor Terry Crews, rapper Kevin Gates, guys that played in the league like Ryan Shazier, Nate Burleson. There is a stigma around men's mental health, but specifically black men's mental health and in the black community. Did you feel that stigma? Were you worried about how other people were going to look at you or other black men if you did ask for help? Did that ever cross your mind?
It crossed my mind once. Well, a couple times. Like it's been said a lot, and it subconsciously be embedded into your mind that you're not strong if you go out and seek help. Shoot, I feel like we all need help.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We all need help to be strong, and you can't do it alone. You need somebody that's a professional to help you, tell you, and diagnose what's going on with yourself, because if you don't, then you're going to self-destruct.
It's a beautiful way to say it. You couldn't describe it any better. Were there other guys on your team or like maybe in the league that you knew went to therapy or did some type of help with their mental health that maybe let you kind of brush that off your shoulder, that stigma a little bit?
I don't feel like people knew like I had that type of, I was passionate about it. So me being more open now and putting it out there, I feel like it'll attract that more of that energy towards me.
Sure.
And people will be more open to have those type of conversations, because, I need people to talk to sometimes, have a bond to, get better as far as like mentally, because everything starts with the mental.
Yep.
I feel like
if you don't have your mental health, you have nothing. Like if you got hurt, like you got turf toe, you went to see team doctor, you're rehabbing, trying to get better. You should do the same thing with your mind. Like there's no, if you're breaking your foot, playing football, you're going to go to the doctor. If something's going on up here, you should see a doctor too. We've talked obviously about mental health. You mentioned it off the beginning. You working with Fund Recovery and Ryan Kane, and your individual fund is the Mental Mindset. Why did you want to be able to create a space and even a fund to be able to give back to people in your community?
First, I want to say appreciate you, Ryan Kane, for the Fund Recovery. And I created that to have a space for people who need it. You know what I'm saying? Because I was a person that, needed therapy, and being able to have that helping hand for people, because I had that helping hand that was ready to help me, and I want to be that ready hand to be the one that's helping the next person.
Well, and therapy, and part of what you're doing with the fund is being able to pay for therapy. People from your hometown, from Starkville, Louisiana, like just trying to get people that helped you along your way, that helped pick you up. Now you want to pick them up. And look, mental health is a tricky thing, obviously, just on the mental side. But when it comes, you said financials before, like there's a lot of people that can't afford it. A lot doesn't get covered by insurance. So to have that ability to be able to help them, it has to be motivation and powerful for you, knowing that a kid that might not ever have a chance to go to therapy, now because of you and the fund that you created, can give it a shot, right?
Yep.
The stigma around men's mental health is something JT and I have talked about throughout this episode, but both of us had the courage to finally ask for help and start therapy. JT talks about going to the Saints team therapist and just realizing that you can have a game plan. It is a mental game, and you can take care of your mental health and talk about how you're feeling. And that's why I want to tell all of you guys about Man Therapy. Yes, guys, I am talking to you because, look, we have to be comfortable being vulnerable and taking control of our mental health, and knowing that it's okay to be emotional and it's okay to ask for help. And Man Therapy wants to help you. Go to mantherapy.org today and take their 18-point head inspection. It's a quick and easy 2-minute test that asks you basic questions about your everyday life, at home, at work, your mental health, to try to give you the best game plan to win the mental game and take care of your mental health with amazing tips, tools, and resources. Again, go to mantherapy.org today. Suicide can be tough to talk about, and that's why the Happiness Project is helping break the stigma. After losing their classmate Nick, his friends knew they had to do something to help save lives. So, the Happiness Project was born, a clothing brand to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention, with t-shirts and hoodies to start a conversation and let people just like you know they are not alone. To learn more, follow @Happiness Project on social media and use the code MENTALGAME for 15% off your first order at happinessproject.com. I love your story, and we didn't know each other too well before we sat down, but I feel like I've been able to dig into your story a little bit. Bouncing back from that, when you did start going to therapy, now getting back into playing, your last 2 years have been awesome in the league. You're an all-pro for the Saints. You're playing in a division that has some elite offenses and can throw the ball around. What do you think your key to success has been these last couple of years, stepping your game up?
The key to my success is like really just focusing on myself, focusing on the areas that I need to improve on, and being great at the things that I'm already great at. Helped me along the way. So eliminate the distractions out there. And that's pretty much been like the foundation that I've had like to generate more success within the league.
New Orleans is a fun place to play. I covered the Saints for 2 seasons. Their fans are enthusiastic. The dome is super loud. It can get crazy at times. Do you have a favorite memory so far playing in the league, or a favorite game in the dome?
A favorite game? I really can't say right now.
I know, I put you on the spot.
Yeah,
sorry.
you put me.
You want me to ask you? I'll ask you a couple more on the spot questions, see if we can get something from it. Least favorite person to cover?
Least favorite person to cover?
Either because they talk so much shit or they're hard to cover. Either one.
I'm trying to see right now. That's another on the spot.
All right, I'm gonna keep going down this. Least favorite team in the division? No, I'm kidding. We're not gonna do that.
There's gonna be a lot of chaos right
I know. You could say, look, I know the lingo from being down there. You can say dirty birds. You can talk about the Panther, like whatever. I'm not gonna put you on that spot. This should be an easier one then. Just goals going forward. You've set a certain bar. You've been able to stay in the league, on the team, on the Saints. What are the goals moving forward for you on the field?
On the field is being the best teammate, being the best leader that I can be to my team and the guys around me, the guys that depend on me. In that way, being the best version of myself that I can be, because that's going to help the team.
That's key in sports, in life. I talk to, college and pro teams, about mental health all the time, trying to help them. And it's like, look, if you're closer mentally in the locker room or going through camp, it's selfish to say this, but you're going to get closer and you're going to win on the field. I'm sure you've seen that in your locker room, seeing guys open up. I mean, you have some great leaders on your team, whether, it's Cam Jordan, Michael Thomas was a great leader for the Saints. Just for you, do you kind of feel, even though I think from the outside you look on paper, JT might not be the guy we're going to pick because of him being an undrafted free agent, but you're a guy that's been through a lot, and now you're an all-pro. Do you try to be that leader, even if just not for the whole team, in that secondary room?
Me being a vet now, it's kind of like I've been through a lot. I have experience in the game, so it's like normally it's gravitated towards a guy that's been shown like how to take care of business as a professional, and I've accepted that role, and I'm embracing it as much as I can to be able to provide for the younger guys that's coming in and and be more of a, more of a role model for those guys to be able to adjust to as they get older in the league, set the standard for those guys.
Yeah, and you want to help people so that maybe they don't have to go through some of the same things that you went through. I feel the same way when I get, asked at events or podcast questions, things like that. Like, I want to tell my story because people can learn from it, and that's the whole point of this show.
100%.
Last thing I'll ask you, unless you got something else you want to add, or think of one of those answers to the spot-on questions. Advice to a kid that wants to follow in your footsteps. This is what I always ask, whether it's an actor, musician, but think about that kid that you were back in your small town in Mississippi. What would you want to tell someone like that has those dreams? What advice would you give them if they want to follow in your footsteps and make it to the league?
I would say, it's a quote that I've seen. It said, what is a legacy? Because when I was younger, I always wanted to, I was always afraid to die. And I always wanted to live forever. And then I realized that you want to create a legacy. The goal is not to live forever, but create something that does. And I would say that create something that lives forever. You know what I mean?
Dude, that's poetry. Love it. JT, thank you so much for coming on the Mental Game. Good luck this season. You're getting ready to enjoy the last bit of your trip here in LA, ESPYs, sunshine, all that jazz. Thanks so much. We'll be cheering you on this year in the Dome.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see everybody right back here next week on the Mental Game. And that was an awesome conversation with JT. I think it's just so inspiring how he finally had to ask for help with his mental health when he was playing in the NFL, starts to see the Saints team therapist, and that inspired him to start his own fund to give back to the ones that helped him throughout his life who might not be able to afford therapy or mental health resources. So again, just love his story, and so thankful he opened up with me here on The Mental Game. Next week, we have another surprise guest. Your one hint, we are coming back to Hollywood. No sports, back to Hollywood next week, right back here on The Mental Game.